Okay, this is an old review of the Godzilla Final Wars movie. So, the movie came out in 2004, and it was announced at the time that it would be like the last Godzilla movie ever. And it was like a big finale to kind of bring out all the stops to kind of send them off. And it actually was the last Godzilla movie ever for about 10 years, which is a stretch. I think everybody knew at the time it wouldn't really be the last Godzilla movie. But it was the end of a particular series of movies. It's not a great film. I mean, of course it's not a great film. It's a Godzilla film. But I watched it and I thought, oh man, it's like the producers have been reading my head. Because I had long thought, when I was kind of going on long walks and kind of thinking about things like these, I'd long thought that this is the kind of Godzilla movie that I would like to make if I was ever in control of these things. So, to go back, when I was a kid, kind of watching these Godzilla movies on TV, I was a big fan of them at one point. But the thing is, they get boring quickly, even when you're a kid. Just kind of this man in a plastic lizard suit kind of stomping on models. But the thing I thought was interesting is there was a series of movies in kind of the 60s, which in my opinion was like the golden age of Godzilla, where Godzilla was almost like in the background of his own movies. Like, for example, Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster. Godzilla spent most of that movie sleeping. And it was just about like a bunch of humans who had landed on this strange island where there was some sort of evil plot to take over the world going on in this island. And kind of like a James Bond type like evil organization. And they were kind of running around and trying to find out what was going on. And then at the very end, Godzilla wakes up and fights a sea monster. Spoilers. Or Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. Again, another Godzilla movie from the 1960s. There's a lot of monsters in this one. There's Ghidorah and Mothra and Rodan and Godzilla. But also, there's this subplot about this royal princess, and somebody's trying to assassinate her, and somebody else is trying to protect her. And like, those are the kind of things that can help to make these movies a lot more interesting. Or in any movie that has to do with Mothra, she's got kind of two twin fairy priestesses who usually get captured by some greedy businessman or something like that. To kind of give the plot, like, not only do you have this monster stomping... Oh, and I almost forgot. The aliens from Planet X. So in some of these movies, the humans have to fight these aliens from Planet X who are controlling the monsters. So, yeah, it's not just monsters stomping on things. You've got some other kind of human action going on. That being said, I'm sure if I rewatched any of those movies now, I would find them absolutely terrible. But they held my interest as a kid. And unfortunately, the Godzilla movies of the 80s and 90s just forgot this completely. It was just back to kind of 2 hours of watching Godzilla fight tanks and airplanes. I thought, oh, that's not interesting. I mean, that's interesting for a while, but you can't get 2 hours out of that. Like that 1985 Godzilla movie where the whole thing was him just fighting the army. Yeah, not that interesting. So I always thought that if I was in control of the movie studios, I'd make a Godzilla movie where you bring in the aliens from Planet X, and you'd have some sort of princess who needs protection, and you'd have the Mothra twin fairies, and you'd have all this stuff, and Godzilla's just in the background. You know, he can show up and stomp on some buildings, but you'd have other stuff going on to make it interesting. Kind of a stupid idea, really, huh? If you're going to go through all that, then why do you even need Godzilla? I don't know. It's just an idea that used to occur to me a lot, kind of as a kid. So this film kind of more or less does that. Godzilla 2004. So, yeah, reading from what I had written at the time, it said that when I watched the new Godzilla movie, it was just like what I had imagined. They even brought back the aliens from Planet X, just as I had planned to if I ever got a chance to make a Godzilla movie. My only complaint was there was no scene with the twin fairies being kidnapped, Mothra's twin priestess fairies. How can you make a Godzilla movie without those two being kidnapped? Although they did make an appearance, I thought they should have been utilized more. To be perfectly honest, it wasn't a great movie by objective standards. There was a lot of action scenes in it, but most of it seemed ripped off from The Matrix. Japanese special effects can't quite compete with big budget Hollywood action films. And as the Japan Times review indicates, Godzilla Final Wars is less an integrated film than a series of gonzo action sequences that, after the initial rush, have much of a sameness, much the feeling of sameness. Still, it was nice to see somebody get the right idea for a Godzilla movie for a change.